Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to try to take an macro perspective of what we've been learning over the last week, and I'm going to scramble all the problems together, and you're going to have to figure out whether it's a circle, ellipse, or a hyperbola. So this is kind of a review of all three sections we've done so far. The work you're going to receive today is going to have a variety of problems scrambled all together, and they're not going to be in standard form. So they're in the most scrambled, non-completed square type versions of each equation. And your job is going to have to be look at the equation, get it into standard form, and then determine whether it's a circle, ellipse, and hyperbola, and then of course graph it. So I want to remind you of the standard form equations. So a circle has this x minus h squared and a y minus k, where hk is a center, and then you've got your radius squared. The other two equations have a 1 outside to the right, and they only differ by a plus or a minus sign in between. This minus sign, or this negative that is involved with this formula, is going to be the indicator that it's a hyperbola. I'm going to review just 3 problems that we've done in the past. So here's a circle problem that we did with completing the square, and I want to show you how that transpired. You'll notice that the equation that they gave you, you'll notice that all we had to do was really separate the x's and y's and then complete the square. We didn't have to divide out a coefficient because neither of the leading terms, either the x squared or the y squared, had one of those leading coefficients, so it wasn't a problem. Ultimately, all we had to do was complete the square, and then the leftovers on the right-hand side ended up being our radius. When we moved on to ellipses, then we had this problem where our leading terms up here in the original equation, because that's where we're going to look today, have this leading coefficient. And we were able to, again, separate the x's and y's, but then we had to take this extra step of factoring out whatever the leading coefficient was on this step from our fake trinomial, or our soon-to-be trinomial. So this extra step, that is what made it become an ellipse. And basically, because these were not the same number, it developed some asymmetry in the equation, and that's what stretches the circle from being a circle into an ellipse. So it's basically an asymmetric circle. The third type of problem we saw was a hyperbola, and the original equation looked like this, and again we had to separate x's and y's, and then we did that thing where we factored out the coefficient, but this time one of them was negative, and even though we had a negative over here that we eventually divided by, there was a difference of signs between the 16 and the negative 9 here. No matter whether you multiplied through with a negative or divided by a negative or whatever, there was going to be at least one negative term the whole time. And since standard form has a positive 1 out here to the right, it ended up being that the y term was negative. So having a difference of signs in this initial equation, see that leading coefficient is a negative versus positive, and therefore you could see right away, even just by looking at this scrambled equation, that you're dealing with a hyperbola. So if I threw these 3 equations in front of you, and these are the same 3 equations that were just shown up on the screen, could you decide, just looking at it, whether each one is a circle, ellipse, or hyperbola? Well, yes, you can. In fact, if you look at this equation, you see that there's no coefficient, so that's going to be a circle. If you look at this one, you can see that there are coefficients, and they are both positive, so they're both the same sign, so therefore this is going to be an ellipse. If you notice that they have coefficients that are different, and the coefficients are opposite signs, then you're going to have a hyperbola. Your homework today is basically going to be this. There's going to be a set of 6 problems that are in a variety of scrambled / standard form equations, and you're going to have to figure out whether it's a circle, ellipse, or hyperbola, and then give the appropriate information for each shape. The homework assignment is another worksheet. It's titled Conic Sections Problem Set, and you're going to do problems 1 through 6, and Schoology will ask you for responses to number 2, 4, and 6. I will see you next time.